Hi y'all, this is House Guest and I am your host, Kenzie Elizabeth. Think a Gen Z wannabe Martha Stewart meets Dolly Parton trying to live in a Nancy Meyers movie in her 20s. We talk all about life, relationships, navigating your 20s, closing out the bars, or waking up at 5 a.m. depending on our vibe that week. Ultimately, living our best lives and figuring it out along the way. So come hang out. Sometimes I have guests on who do really cool things, some of my best friends, or it's just me and my house that I spend way too much time in. So let's get into the show. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to let y'all know that the House Guest holiday, winter collection is now available. I'm wearing my favorite piece. It is our cute little polo shirt. It has a House Guest embroidered HD. Looks adorable. The quality's insane, guys. I got this back and I couldn't believe it. I'm wearing a medium right now. I have an extra large. I'm obsessed with this. And Jack, Jack, who is a friend of the show, it was approved by her. She loves it and says it's so cute and it's just it's everything. So we have this in a chocolate brown. It's a long sleeve. It's unlike any other merch you've ever seen before. And I am obsessed with it. And then we have this in pink as well. I just don't have it on me. We also have these cute little striped crew necks that has our House Guest house, which honestly, I didn't even mean for this to happen, but it really does look like Rose Hill Cottage. I obviously did not design this. If only I could do that. It's actually kind of everything. I love it. We have our House Guest tag. I always get larges and extra larges, but very cute. Just this cute little striped crew. So fun. It looks like a lot of the crews that I see on TikTok. And then the thing I'm actually second most excited for, we have this House Guest hat. It's this chocolate brown embroidered house hat, okay? And then it says House Guest on the back. Look at how cute this would be. My Dallas girls walking Katy Trail with it, wherever you are, West Side Highway. I don't know your story, but would love to, okay? Anyway, so this is out now. This hat is so cute. I cannot wait to wear this. And then we actually have new aprons as well, which I'm really excited for. We have our breadwinning housewife aprons that are actually, I think, still available on the site, but these are our new ones. The House Guest House. Oh, that's backwards. Sorry. The House Guest House aprons. They're really, really cute. The perfect gift to give. Treat yourself this holiday winter season, if you will. Okay. So anyways, love these. These are all available on our merch website now. So I hope you guys enjoy and happy shopping, and let's get into this episode. I feel like I am in the presence of a celebrity. Seriously.
No celebrity here.
Guys, welcome Kathy to the show. You don't know this yet.
Thank you.
You're the new resident House Guest life coach.
Oh, good. I love that.
I think that'll be, sorry, Fitz is just laying on my wire. Don't mind that. For the listeners at home who aren't watching on YouTube, that's my 100-pound, he's not really 100 pounds, but he looks it, dog who's just wearing a sweater right now. So if you guys are not watching on YouTube, you need to be watching on YouTube. The setup is stunning. But anyways, back to our resident life coach, Kathy. I love you. Aww. Everyone who knows you is obsessed with you. The amount of times that we've referenced something that you have said to us, or I've even just heard secondhand, half the time it's not even things, by the way, that you've told me personally. It's other stuff. I will spend 1 hour with you, and then the next day I'm on TikTok. I'm like, things I've been learning lately. It's just incredible. So I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. That's so nice.
It's very true.
It's so nice.
Can you give us just a little bit of your career background before we get into all of our, New Year goal setting? This is I don't want to say Tony Robbins episode, but this is a very motivational episode.
Oh, I hope so. So my background, I've worked my entire life. I started with Dillard's department stores after college. I had 11 jobs in 7 years. I moved 5 times.
Wow.
In that time. I then went to Donna Karen Beauty. Donna started a beauty brand, and I went to work with her, and it was really small, and we grew it and sold it to Estee Lauder. So then I went to work for Estee Lauder, which they're all great companies, but that's an unbelievable company, I have to say. At Estee Lauder, I ran Neiman Marcus for the country and worked with Dillard's at that time too. Andrea Jung was CEO of Neiman's, and she left to go be the CEO of Avon and recruited me to come work with her to build a brand there. That didn't go so well. That didn't go so well. Lots of things didn't go right. And so they decided after a year and a half that we weren't going to do that anymore. So I found myself for the first time in my career looking for a job. And for the last 15 years, I worked for a luxury furniture and fabric company catering to the half percenters, I say, called David Sutherland. And they have Perennials Fabrics and Sutherland Furniture. And then 4 years ago, I retired from there and decided to share all of my learnings with others because my purpose is to see other people win.
To even use the term retiring is kind of crazy. She's not retired.
No.
It does kind of sound that way, though.
Okay, well, it lasted 4 days.
Yeah, it lasted about 4 days, and she's back. And what was your official job? I feel like you have 15 different job titles.
Now?
Yeah.
So 90% of my time is business development for companies ready to grow, to get to the next level. And I have a philosophy that you grow your company through people. So I focus on the people because everybody has good products, right? You can buy things on the internet, but when you have a luxury product, especially, the consumer wants to connect with the person, I feel.
Agreed.
And so I work on developing the culture and the people and building strategies and setting goals and crushing them.
This is where the life coach thing comes in, guys. And I was on your site the other day, and the quote, it's something along the lines of, she's good, but she's tough. So be ready. And it's true.
Yes.
But I actually love that the most about you because I think just even as a friend, I hate when people beat around the bush and they don't really say what they're thinking that could possibly help their friend. I actually think that if you like truly love someone and care about someone, you're going to tell them the truth. And if you're just saying, oh, I don't want to offend or it's not my place, you're really just like evading, not responsibility, but you just don't care enough about that person. That's how it feels to me. So I actually like your directness. I think it's very good. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's part of my DNA. And by the way, you know, if you look online, the statistics say about 74% of the world operates in mediocrity. And mediocrity, not bad, right? Mediocrity is, you know what you're going to get. They come in, they do their job, and they go home. Or your friend in a friendship, they may not show up all the time, but they're kind of like steady eddies in life. And then there are those of us that are the 24%. We're going to change the world, or our world anyway, right? Those are the people that I want to work with. Those are the people that I surround myself with because I'm not mediocre in any form or place in my life and never have been. But we all can't be like that. You're kind of one of those. You're one of
operating in mediocrity. That's actually my biggest fear. I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm like my biggest fear is failure, but failure to me is to operate in mediocrity. Like that's all that means. I always say like I want to live this big life. It's not even in my career only, it's in every area of my life. I'm not someone who only values my career. I actually value my actual life a lot more, which is something I've like learned in grief. But like my biggest fear in life is to just kind of half-ass it. Sounds horrible. No thanks.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah, that's just not for me.
Nope.
It's not for you either, Kathy.
That's right.
It's not for our listeners.
That's right. And that's exactly the people I'm not a good fit for.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm not for everybody, because I'm firm but kind. But I will resent working with you if you don't move your needle. So if you don't want to move your needle, if you're not in growth mindset, if you're not open to new ideas, I am not your person. Go find somebody who will listen to you forever and take your money and let you be the same. I'm not that.
And that's why she's on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, the 4 that listen. Every time I say that, I always get messages from boys who listen to the podcast who are not what you would think my demographic would be.
Really?
Like, very straight, almost like macho men. It's shocking. I mean, granted, there's probably 10 of them, but the fact that there's any at all is like, look at this room. I'm really surprised.
No, I actually love it.
Oh, I love it too. I love them. I like people who surprise you, you know?
Yep.
You mentioned a little bit about growth mindset. I think we should start off with that
Okay.
because I do think that it is really the foundation for everything else.
Yeah, so growth mindset is really important. And it's also good to know that you can't live in growth mindset all the time, right? We all have a fixed mindset at times. And I can't tell you how many people I work with that tell me that's never going to work. You don't understand. Not going to happen. So I always ask them to add yet to the end of it because I know we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. But maybe not yet. We're planting seeds so they'll get there. Because especially if you are in fixed mindset more often than growth currently, that's the easiest way to change into a growth mindset. Yet. That's not working yet. That's not happening yet. Because growth mindset, there are lots of definitions, but I just say it's, are you open to new ideas or not? And if you truly want to change your life for the better, you got to be open to doing things a little bit differently, right? That's how we move our needle. Growth mindset. It's the number one thing I think you have to be in the right mindset to grow.
So you start by adding yet to everything.
Yes.
And then how are you able to grow in a growth mindset?
Well, because it tricks your brain. So I've done a lot of brain work over the last 4 years. And
That is another thing that we both love.
Yes.
We're kind of the same.
Yes. In a lot of
I'm a
ways.
mini you.
Maybe 30 years different, but yes.
Okay, perfect.
You could be.
I'm like kind of heading in that direction.
I love it.
I feel good about that.
So what I was going to say is when you do the brain work, there are little things that you learn that trick your brain into thinking a little bit differently. It starts out slow, just like yet. I will tell you, if you live in growth mindset, when I'm working with people, I will pitch them an idea or a strategy, and very often they say, nope, we're not doing that. Well, yet. And then what I do is go back and I change my strategy. I rethink, how did I sell this to them? Did I sell it from my perspective or did I sell it from their perspective, right? So I'll shift my sales pitch and I'll go back again 3 weeks later and I'll drop another nugget, plant another seed. 80% of the time, they buy into it the second time. Sometimes it takes me 3 times. But if I believe in something, I'm going to get it done. But maybe not on the first try. And I think that's something that growth mindset helps with also, is if someone shuts you down, they don't have to shut you down. They're shutting themselves down, right? Mm-hmm. They're shutting themselves down to new ideas. We can still be open to it. We just got to change how we present it.
I love that. I think that's really great. I also, something that I talk about on the podcast a lot is like big thinkers versus small thinkers. And that would go into the category of big thinkers. But even if we're just taking this friendship wise, the small thinkers would be the people who are, you know, with their friend. This is a dumb example, but like if their friend is trying to become an influencer and they're saying, oh, that's so embarrassing and that'll never work. But the big thinker friend is like, that's so amazing. They keep going. You can do so many things. Like big thinkers are making not only their own world bigger, but they're making everyone else's world bigger around them. And that is, I feel like, growth mindset.
That's why I call my company Increased Orbit.
Wait, that's so cute. I didn't even think about that.
That's exactly why. You got to grow your world.
I love that.
Expand your orbit.
What are ways that people can do that?
Lots of ways. You know, first, be open to new ideas. Second, don't play it safe. Take a few risks. You deserve it. We were all put on this earth to do amazing things. But amazing things are just not going to show up at the front door. So don't be afraid to try. And by the way, a lot of people are all consumed with perfection. It's exhausting. And it doesn't truly exist if you're learning and you're growing. So punch perfection in the face and be okay taking a few hits and failing and not getting it right the first time. Fall down, get back up. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people say, right? The winners, they get up. They keep going no matter the obstacles. Now, I might lick my wounds for a little while or feel sorry for myself, or, positive people have negative thoughts. We just don't let them grow. We get ourselves out of it. But believe me, there are times where I'm like, I'm failing. I don't know what I'm thinking. Like, why am I doing this? It'd be so easy just to go get a job. But I'm creating something that I believe is my purpose. So I've failed at things my entire life. I have failed my friends. I've failed my people. I've failed my family. But I've learned from it. And that's where you grow the most, is when you're challenged the most. Life is not easy for anybody.
I think too, when you're failing, something that's helped me is that I have a life I have a big life. I love so many different hobbies. I love my friends. I love my people. I love my work. I don't associate, if something is failing, it's not so closely tied to my identity because there's so many other things happening. And it's just not, I don't take it so personally. As I've gotten older, even just the difference between 20 to 27, it just isn't a complete reflection of who I am. And I feel like to people listening who are in their 20s, it's so easy to tie your job into completely connected to your worth. And I think that's why people get stuck for so long, or that's at least why I've gotten stuck in years past, is because I didn't really have an identity outside of work. All it was work. Once I started developing hobbies and a life, it got a lot easier because it wasn't the end of the world.
That's great. I love that you have hobbies. That also helps with managing your stress, right?
We should talk about stress.
Yeah, I love stress.
Let's hear what you have to say about stress, because I love it.
So I have an unconventional sort of belief, and I believe that stress is good for you. And that the one thing I know for sure in this world and in your life, stress and anxiety are going nowhere. So you have to change your relationship with it and start believing that stress is actually good for you. So I have a different view on stress than most people. I believe stress is good for you. No stress, no growth. Because the one thing I know in this life is that stress and anxiety, they're going nowhere, right? So we have to change our relationship with them and start believing that it's good for us. Punch it in the face. I got this. Now, too much stress sends you into distress. That's where your brain breaks. But if you think about it, if you break an arm and it goes in a cast for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, you get the cast off, it's not strong. It's not strong because you haven't stressed it. You haven't used it. Same here. You've got to stress your brain to grow it, right? The brain is so cool. So when you get the cast off, you go to physical therapy and stress it to make it stronger. However, if you do too much physical therapy too fast, you will re-injure it. Same here. So you have to learn when you have too much, or you're getting close to too much stress, go take a recovery break, which is your needlepoint, your dinner parties, all of the things that help your brain. You're still using your brain, but in a different way. That makes it more resilient and more able to manage stress. That's what I think, based on all the research I've done. I didn't just make it up, by the way.
No, I think that's really good. We were talking about that earlier, and just looping in stress and anxiety. And I talk about mental health here all the time on the podcast, but I would not be where I am career-wise if it weren't for anxiety. So I'm actually very grateful for it at times. And I have grown a whole life to manage it. And it's not something that's debilitating to me, but there's a lot of positive things. I would be lying if I said there wasn't a lot of positive things that have come out of my anxiety.
It equals growth.
Yeah.
You just proved it.
Totally. It really has. I say that all the time. Because I feel like some people have debilitating and some people have it to where it makes you
correct.
A complete, whatever the opposite of debilitating is. And that's what has happened for me. So there are definitely pros.
Yeah, no. It helps. And I also say you need to use your brain where you have to get your mind off whatever's making you anxious. So that may be walking up the stairs backwards during a break at work. That might be going on a walk with a friend where you're solving the world's problems as you know them to be, right? Where you're literally walking and you're walking fast enough and you're talking with your friends about things that are not that. And it allows recovery for your brain. And then your brain, it's so cool how your brain can change. We can't change our lungs, really. We can't change our heart. We can change our brains.
What are other little exercises you would say to do that are good for your brain?
For stress recovery or for what?
Just generally.
What? I think meditation is great for your brain. I think music and dancing is great for your brain. Literally, they change your brain, right? You'll be in a car and a great song comes on and you don't say, okay, move body, sing body, right? All of a sudden it just happens. And those things help build your brain. Meditation, dancing, listening to great music, spending time with your friends. What else do I do? Working out.
Yeah, that's my biggest one. Getting
enough sleep. I mean, there are lots of sort of things that we know. Some of the tricks, if I'm in an office with somebody and they are really anxious or they're really stressed or we're trying to make a big decision and they can't yet, I will literally have them go walk up the stairs backwards, E5. I will ask them, go walk the stairs backwards because your brain can't focus on anything but getting you up and down those stairs. And then 10 minutes later, your brain is more productive again. It's not in distress.
Another thing that's been very helpful for me, well, side note, I'm obsessed with Dr. Amen. So I've read so many of his books. You know, I went to the Amen clinics.
No, but I love him.
They have one in Irving here.
I have not been.
Oh,
I went to the Brain Code Center.
Well, I love Brain Codes as well. Brain Codes has been actually, out of anything I've ever done mental health wise, anything, Brain Codes has been the most beneficial. You literally go in, if you guys are in Dallas, I think Colorado, they've got stuff that you can buy online too and do it from wherever. I cannot recommend it enough. You do like a brain scan at the beginning, you go through, I sit there, they attach things to my head and I watch Gilmore Girls and I leave, and somehow, I'm not kidding, like the way that I've even just been able to like manage this year, I solely have to thank Brain Codes. They are the best thing that ever happened to my brain health, my life in general. I love them.
I do too.
Love. Anyways, things that are not like expensive and things you don't have to go to. I think gratitude has been the biggest game changer for me, and I see it so obviously within my friends. Like there's always the people who are just waiting for the next ball to drop, or like, of course that would happen to me. And I'm like, you can have trust me, you can have so much tragedy in your life and not think that way and not act that way. And obviously it's easy to get to that point, but what happens when you're doing a gratitude list is you're training your brain to look for the good, and you're going to find what you're looking for in anything in life. So if you're training yourself to look for the good, you will find that even if it's just the smallest moments of like your morning coffee, or like someone waved or smiled at you, or you ran into someone that you liked, something so small, that for me makes the biggest difference. But I think it's really just training your brain for what to focus on and what to see.
That might be the number one thing you can do, right? The top of the list. Gratitude is easy, and it does change your brain. And what I would add to that is when you find gratitude for others, especially, tell them. And I wouldn't say tell them in an authentic way. I am so grateful for your friendship for many reasons, but one of them is because you listen to me and you know when to push back and you know when to be gentle with me. Right? Like, be authentic in giving positive, authentic feedback all the time. Because here's something else we talked about this morning. Someone can tell you one negative thing about yourself and you'll ruminate on it for who knows how long. And someone can tell you 3 nice things about you and you're not even going to think about them very long. They cancel each other. Actually, they don't cancel each other out. I think it takes 6 pieces of positive, authentic feedback for every one negative. In life, you know, in family time, Thanksgivings and Christmases and whatever holidays that you celebrate, a lot of times our families are really good at telling us what we don't do right, right? Start telling your family everything that they do right, that they do, that you appreciate about them, that you are grateful for them. Watch how the dynamic in your family changes. They might think you're crazy in the beginning, right? But it changes the dynamic of family when we I always practice on my family.
And that's the hardest one to practice.
That's right.
That's real. That's actually
right.
really great. As I've gotten older, I used to have such a hard time doing that. I was always a pretty vulnerable person. Like, I'll share a lot with people, but it was hard for me to like articulate emotion in that way. But I've gotten better at that as I've gotten older. I feel like in the past 2 years. But before that, it just felt so like cringe to me. And I hate that I felt that way. Now it feels so much better. And I'm like confident when I say things, but it was like genuinely difficult for me. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you why. Because we all have it. Because based on the research I've done, by the way, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I believe. When I was growing up, I would hear people say, no judgment. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? I'm making judgments all day long. Right? Well, then when I started doing my brain work, literally the job of the brain is to make judgments, mostly to protect you. So automatically, just like our lungs breathe automatically and our heart beats automatically, our brain is protecting us from anything bad that could happen, fight or flight, right? You hear it all the time, which is really great if we're in a dangerous situation. But another cool thing about the brain is you can train it to have more positive judgment than negative judgment. So you have to just switch the two, right? And by practicing that, so when you have a negative judgment about yourself or about your friend or about your family or about a situation, take it in and then try to reframe it in a positive way. Because listen, I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody that wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm going to go ruin everybody's day today. But sometimes it happens because we're human and we do things that we wish we wouldn't have done. So if we give people the benefit of the doubt, we show them grace, we can show that, and ourselves, P.S., right? We got to be really kind to ourselves. It changes our brain and we have more positive judgment instead of negative judgment. It's so cool.
My mom is the least critical person you'll ever meet in your life. And I think she actually only experiences positive judgments in her brain. I'm not kidding.
Well, then she's practiced that.
She has somehow, but she's always that. I remember where I was when I noticed that other moms said mean things about like their kids or the people around them or like the country club community. But,
yep.
You know, I remember being like, that's kind of weird. Like kind of like I was like embarrassed for them because my mom was she's a little too woo-woo in that way sometimes. You know, she could probably use some harsh judgments at times, but she's when I think of like a positive judgment person, it is my mother. It's probably for the world. It's actually crazy.
And you are one lucky girl then, or woman, because you're right. Most of us don't have that automatic positive judgment. Totally. We have to work for it.
What advice would you give to your younger self when it comes to confidence? Were you confident in your 20s? Like, did you see this big life for yourself, or did it take time?
I mean, I've always been a pretty confident person, but I've worked really, really hard all my life at everything I ever did. I never did anything like halfway. But I had a fear of failure for a long time, and I really thought I had to be perfect. I had to know everything. I had to be the one everyone came to all the time. I had to work harder than anyone else. I had to be smarter than I had to just have it all, and it's exhausting. So I would say for me, I had to stop being my own worst critic and become a fan. That's good. Because I was really harsh on myself for a long time. And it gets you nowhere.
How did you change that?
I started showing myself some grace and started knowing that collaboration is where the magic happens in friendships, in life, and in work. And not to be afraid to not have all the big ideas, and not be afraid to not be the number one executor at everything, because everything is better when you get other people or bring other people into your ideas, because they'll poke holes in them. You know, I always want someone who's going to challenge me, because then it's going to be a better idea. And when I'm working out a problem, I don't feel like I have to work it out in silence anymore. I can call one of my friends. I can share it. I didn't have to be the one who didn't really have problems. I didn't have to be the one who wasn't living sort of a perfect life and the life of her dreams, because in reality I wasn't. So when I got to accept that, I feel like I became a better human and better for others and for myself.
I feel like Ed Milet, when I'm like, I really feel like that's what everyone's going to take from this episode. Do you like Ed Milet?
Do I like what?
Ed Milet. He's just like this entrepreneur guy that is like basically like, I don't want to say my Jesus, that's offensive, but like I'm obsessed with him anyways, but he's always like, that is what everyone's going to take. But that's how I feel right now. That is just so helpful. Especially to like people who are listening. A lot of people are listening to this podcast when it comes to, you know, navigating your 20s. And I feel like that is such a huge thing. It's such a huge hit in your 20s.
Yep, my 20s were full of it.
Yeah, I can't wait for my 20s to be over. Anyways, I do want to talk about goal setting with you. I hear you have a very fabulous way that you goal set.
I think so. How I got here first is that, you know, all through my career, people would set goals for me, the other companies, my bosses, and they wouldn't really tell me how to get it done. So I did a lot of research, and over the years, what I figured out was a really easy way to goal set is sort of like planning a party, which is right up your alley, because we spend more time planning a party or planning a trip than we do planning our own life. Mm-hmm. Not everyone, but I certainly did before, right? I just sort of thought, well, if I just do a good job, everything's going to come to me. Well, that's not how life works. And so you plan a party, set a goal, whatever the goal is, that's the party, right? And then you ask yourself, why do I want to have this party? What is your why? Why do you want to achieve this goal? And you got to be real clear and you got to be real specific, because that will help you get back on track when you struggle. Right? Mm-hmm. So why are we setting the goal? Why are we having the party? What's going to get in the way? So what obstacles are we going to have to overcome? And if we can set our obstacles, we'll be able to overcome them and get back on track quicker when we're distracted, because we've already thought of everything that's going to get in the way, right? Who's coming? Who's going to help you? Who's your accountability partner? Who's your personal trainer? You know, if it's health. If you want to be a real estate agent, who's going to be your real estate mentor? Who's going to help you get this done, right? Then the magic happens when we get into how. How are we going to get ready for this? And that's all the steps that you're going to take for a month, 2 months, 3 months, for the year, however big your goal is. How are you going to get it done? And then the last time is, when's the party? When are we going to achieve our goal? And you really have to, for a brain thing, you need to put a date. And I actually like a time. And I don't like 12 o'clock. I like 12:01. And the reason I like that is because if I ask you in 3 hours, what time did I say? You're going to remember 12:01. Whereas you might remember 12 or you might not, because it tricks your brain. Or 3:33 or 5:55. right? Some kind of different time will trick your brain into remembering the time you said you'd get it done. Now, the cool thing about goal setting, because you said fear of failure, right? That's the number one reason, actually, the research shows that people don't set goals because they're afraid to fail. Well, I say, if you plan a party, it's not going to fail, even if it doesn't go exactly as planned, right? So every month, every week, every quarter, every year, whatever timing you set for yourself, it's important to look back, remember why you started, celebrate your small wins along the way, and adjust as necessary. Because listen, sometimes when we set goals, we are so optimistic and we are so excited that we kind of overcommit ourselves. So adjust it. And then at that point, if you need to move the date because something unexpected came up, some obstacle that you didn't think was going to come up, right? For whatever, just adjust it. It's like a journey. And when you start planning parties, your very first party isn't as good as your fifth party, isn't as good as your 10th party. And when I say isn't as good, I mean as easy, right? We get better when we practice. So this is a practice. It's like you'll never stop having parties. You'll never stop going on trips. So stop letting other people plan for you. Because Jim Rohn once said, if you don't plan the life that you want, chances are you're going to fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Helping them make their plan. Right? So make your own plan for your life. And you can start small or you can start big and adjust.
I love that perspective because I feel like it's tricking your brain too to make it sound fun. And also just the idea of a party. I'm not good at this. I think I've gotten slightly better at like celebrating small wins. I don't think I was ever good at this in the past. In the recent months, I've tried to do it a little bit more. I think mainly just because I was in a couple magazines. I was like, we're going to Barnes & Noble, you know? But it helps because it makes it, I don't know, it makes it more fun. And also, I was thinking before you even got to the point of it gets easier, like I think about my first dinner party that I hosted to now, and I did a dinner party for like 12 people last night, and it genuinely wasn't that difficult. But had I done that, you know, before, it used to be overwhelming for me. And now it just gets easier. You get kind of like into the swing of things. You figure out certain hacks that work, you know, like the certain things that are easy. Like you have your friend of mine dinner cards and it's easier for the dinner, like whatever it might be. It definitely, I don't know, I like that approach so much more.
Well, thank you. Because I do feel like it works, and I feel like it should be fun, and I feel like it should be part of our lives, and then we should not be afraid of them. And I hope more people will do it, right? And then if you get off track, that's okay. Just get back on track. Nobody is measuring you except for yourself.
When it comes to someone listening to this podcast and they're like, okay, I want to plan my own life. I don't want someone else to plan it for me.
Yep.
Where do they begin?
Well, I think the first thing is they have to decide what they want to do, right? They got to set some goals.
Are you a vision board person?
Yes, I love them.
Same.
So it might be a vision board to start if they don't, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so we don't even maybe know what we're capable of. It's just like when you just said your friend of mine cards, that kind of came to you because of your parties, right? Organically, when you start moving your needle in life, it's abundance kind of happens and new ideas come, and it just generates different energy in a really great way. And that is also celebrating your wins is also gratitude, right? For yourself. Because we oftentimes are grateful for so many other things and other people, but that's when we get to find gratitude for ourselves. We celebrate our wins. And in the companies that I work with, every single week, we celebrate everyone's wins. Everyone has to have at least one. And then it gets easier and easier and easier because, by the way, we weren't taught that, most of us. We are taught, what are you going to do next? Okay, you did this, you grew 30%. Are you going to grow 40 next year? Right? Mm-hmm. So, especially when I was growing up, we didn't do a lot of celebrating our wins. And I think that was a miss for my generation.
I naturally am like, okay, on to the next thing. Or if someone compliments me, I almost feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I'm like, all right, let's move on. Thanks. Like, anyways, you know what I mean? Like, we don't need to talk about this anymore. But I've actively been trying to get better at it. My dad is the best at it, but my dad also thinks I can run for president. My dad would celebrate me breathing and it would be fine, you know? So it has been something that I've tried actively to get better at, and I've noticed the difference. Like, it really has made such a difference. And even just being a little bit more present, I think being present isn't something that has come very naturally to me in life, because I'm so, like, I want to get things done and work, and, you know, I'm always like on to the next. So for me, it's really helped me to like be in that moment versus just like wanting to hop 5 years.
And that's amazing. That's, you know, there are lots of benefits, and that's probably one of the main benefits. Good. So congratulations. That's a win.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about a conversation we had at dinner a couple months ago that was very beneficial to me. I'll remind you what we spoke about.
Okay.
So I was having just some issues, like, relationally. A lot in my life has changed in the past year. And I was saying, you know, I really kind of hate where this is at. I don't want this to feel this way. And you told me something that you really broke it down into my language. Okay. And you said, well, you said two things that are good, but the first thing you said was, you know, sometimes a dinner party friend becomes a block party friend, and a block party friend becomes a dinner party friend. And I really like that approach. Can you talk to just changing your friendships, especially when people listening to this episode are going to be likely people who are wanting to make changes into their life? It might not even be the new year, just in general. They could be listening to this 3 years from now. And I think for me, like, one of the biggest changes you kind of have to make are the people that are surrounding you. So how would you go about that when you're, you know, switching, demoting, if you will? I don't like that terminology when it comes to, like, people, but, you know, switching your relationships and, like, proximity wise.
Right. So I love people. I feel like I'm a connector in this life, and I have a lot of people in my life. I think I might have even said I have maybe 4 very best close friends. But if you ask most people that know me, they will say, oh, she's one of my best friends. Mm-hmm. And I always want to be that, right? Yeah. However, for them. But they are not that for me. And the reason for that is I am private, and I put so much energy and effort into my ride or die people, and they do right back, right? They give back to me. I can call them for anything, and they'll drop it and be at my door. And then there's your block party friends, which, those are my dinner party friends, mm-hmm. right? The people that I'm having in my house to dinner parties. And then my block party friends are everybody else, because I genuinely like people and I want everyone to win. And so if I see you at a block party, I'm going to do everything I can to build you up, make you feel comfortable, make you feel glad that you're there, glad that you came, right? But I'm not going to see you except at a block party, because I'm giving everything and I'm not getting anything. And I feel like as you grow, relationships ebb and flow. And there are times where, for me, I never got married or had kids, but a lot of time in my 20s, a lot of my friends got married and had kids. Well, so where I might have been number 1 or number 2 priority, all of a sudden I became number 4, 5, 6, because they've got all these other obligations. And you have to be okay with that, right? And just know that nobody did anything wrong. There's just, we change in life. And I want to be around other women and men who elevate me and bring me up and push me to be a better human, right? And so if you want to be with those people, you got to search for them. And you've got to invest in them as much as they're willing to invest in you. But then your block party people, they're just like your people, but not all the time. Mm-hmm. When you're with them, it's great, but when you're not, it's okay too.
I love this like analogy, if you will. I just think of, my two best friends in the world are Dom and Macy. And I definitely have like a couple people who are like pretty close to that. And then I have the people that are at dinner parties or are at, I don't know. I think it's a good way to look at it as I'm someone who really values my friendships and the people around me. I'm such a people person. I feel the same way a connector. I'm literally connecting people 24/7. Like, everyone's gonna be like, this whole episode is you trying to be her, but like, really, I feel that way. And yeah, so I put a lot of pressure on myself at the same time to like really be a good friend. And I realized specifically even just this past year, like I can only do that for a certain amount of people.
That's right.
And so just to be like intentional, because when I am that friend, I want to be that friend. And I am like that. If there's one thing in life that I'm good at, it is being a friend. Like that is the one thing that like I've really got down. I obviously mess up, but that's probably the thing I'm most confident in about myself. And yeah, I don't know, something about that. And it was more so like the permission, like things don't have to stay the same. I've had so many friends that I've known for 20 years and our relationships have looked different. There's been times where they were dinner party, times where they were block party. Like it ebbs and flows because everyone's life is changing.
That's right.
And it's good. It's not a bad thing.
Still friends with everyone that was at my first birthday party.
Wow.
But they're not necessarily at my dinner party.
Totally.
But I could also call them, or they could call me, and I would run, not walk. Mm-hmm. Right? But some of them I haven't, I see a couple of them often. And then one of them I don't ever see, but he lives in Atlanta and, I keep up with him because our parents are friends. But, yeah, it changes.
I think about something that you said to me at dinner, probably multiple times a week. Made a TikTok about it too, but you quoted something essentially along the lines of yellow lights rarely turn red. Yellow lights rarely turn green. In fact, they almost always turn red. And that has actually shifted how I am with everything, because when I was younger, I lacked boundaries. So I was in a lot of these friendships that I probably shouldn't have been in, that I saw all the signs, but I would make excuse after excuse, or I would get too close and then you're too invested, whatever it might be. And it's really helped me to kind of be in a healthier space relationally. So can you expand on this?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'll say that was not my quote.
But you shared it with me. Yeah. So I credit you.
That was a gentleman named Ken Hirsch, mm-hmm. and he was a Fort Worth guy, and now he's a Dallas guy, and he wrote a book recently, and I read the book. And a lot of it is just about his life, but that literally stuck out to me. I sent it to everybody I know, everybody I work with, because those are mistakes. Believing that yellow lights turn green is something I sort of lived by, right? And what I mean by that, or what at least I think he meant, is that we believe in people. I believe in people. I see potential in people when they don't even see it in themselves, right? And so through my career, I would push people. I want you to get promoted. I want you to do bigger things. Maybe they didn't want it, but I pushed them, right?
Mm-hmm. I will want something for someone more than they could ever want it for themselves.
Right. So you have to learn to be okay meeting people where they are. And if you see the yellow light, or something that causes you to think maybe they aren't gonna get promoted, maybe they don't want to be this in the company, maybe they aren't this kind of friend, right? Maybe they're asking too much, right? Whatever the yellow light looks like, the sooner that you set a boundary, the better off you are. Because what he found and what I have found, I thought it was the best analogy of a lot of things that went wrong in my life, is I always gave second chance, third chance, fourth chance. People would show me who they were and I didn't believe them. I believed in their potential. But a lot of people aren't. They are what they show you, right? Most people are how they show up. And so the longer you wait, the more hurtful it is when you finally realize, okay, this is not just red, this is red with a siren.
Yeah, the ambulance is on the
right, right. And so yellow lights are just something I don't know that a lot of people pay attention to early in life. And I think if you did, it's just caution. Mm-hmm. You know, if someone shows you who they are, men, boyfriends, I always found this. I always would make it my fault when something went wrong, right? Or I would figure out the reason that I wasn't enough or I didn't do something, when in reality, that's not what it was at all. Mm-hmm. There were yellow lights. I didn't want to see them. I wanted to believe in the green. And they always turned red. And then I always was devastated.
I would say almost every relationship I've been in, I was dating for potential.
Yep.
Almost every single one. Something that ironically, I used to say on this podcast a lot that was shared with me is patterns over potential. And I do feel like there are areas in my life that I probably practice that better than others, for sure. But it's just been something that's helpful for me too. Not even in the sense of like cutting that person off. Like I don't like the whole idea that like everyone's toxic and cut them off.
Nope.
I think that's just a really lousy way of like you not taking responsibility of like your own side of the street. And I think people are good and they mean well, but I think there's a difference between being like they're good and like it's hard to find like the good right people for you. Like I think about like my friends, I don't know, anyways, side note, but patterns over potential has been something that really I should revisit a little bit more. But with the lights, it helps me to keep people at different proximity. I think that a lot of it is just like how close you let people get to you. Or even like I see something and it's like, oh, this person really needs, you know, X, Y, and Z quality in a friend and I'm not that. So I don't want us to get too close because I'm not the right match for them. You know, like I can see things like that. It's not like I think I'm an angel with like a halo on my head. You know what I mean? It's just there's certain things where it's like this is not going to work out.
Right.
And paying attention to it instead of just thinking it's going to change because it's not.
Correct. It's not. Now, what I will say, so there's a little caveat to this because in my life, so I see a lot, and I've thought about this for a long time, so I'm kind of glad that you triggered it for me to bring up. I see on social media a lot of things like, you got to meet me halfway. We got to have this friendship. You know, I'm setting a boundary. If you don't do this, I'm not going to do this. And hard stops. And if you don't support me, I'm not supporting you, right? I'm going to meet you where you are and all that. Okay, so I don't agree with that.
I agree.
I always want to be someone you could call. Always. I'm not calling you, right? I'm not going to call necessarily, not you, but in general, I'm not, but like I have one friend who only calls me when she needs me, literally. I want to be that person. I don't think that's negative. I'm grateful that I am that person for her, right? She's a block party friend, but she calls me when she needs me. That's it. She never asks about me. She never asks about my life. She never asks one thing. Kathy, I need you. And that makes me so happy. So there's a fine line, which you just brought up. Like, I want to be the person for somebody who may not have me anywhere else, but they may not be that for me.
I like that.
Okay.
I think I was talking to a friend about this morning because she shared in her close friends. There was a meme that said that exactly.
Oh.
And she basically said, she's been on this podcast a billion times too, have we lost all humanity? And I'm like, actually, like, to also to keep that, like, so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, to even, like, spend the time to think about that, like, tit for tat. I just think, I don't like that idea.
No.
And also, it's pretty much, a relationship's never going to be 50-50.
Nope.
There's always going to be a time where someone needs the other one more than the other person, and you just show up, and maybe you're showing up more for a friend, and another friend, guess what, is showing up more for you than you do for them. Like, it's kind of just the circle of life. Like, I think it is a way, we have become too self-centered online, and just like even honestly in the conversation of productivity and career. That's why I always say, like, I talk so much about, like, building this career that you want in this life you want, but I think it's equally as important to do the life. Like, when people say, like, oh, I'm not going to, like, my friend's wedding because I have to work, it's like, no, like, things, there's obviously time for sacrifices, but, like, I just don't think that losing your entire social life is that, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the one, but I just think it's a way that we have lost humanity and become so self-absorbed, and you're never going to find fulfillment and, like, true joy and happiness when you just cut people off and you're so self-centered with it.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. And I couldn't think, I can't think of any reason that I would not want to be. Now, that doesn't mean I might not set a boundary, right? I have a bunch of friends that have had addiction issues over the years. And they would always call me when they needed me also. And it's okay to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to give you any money. I will buy you a plane ticket and you can come here, but I'm not giving you any money, right? So it allowed me to work differently, but I'm not abandoning anybody, but it will change the way I manage the relationship to where it hopefully serves us both. But I'm not canceling anybody.
Yeah.
And if you need me, I'm there.
Yep. There are very few, I can think of like 2 in my entire life of friendships that have actually ended where I feel like I probably should have made that call like way earlier, honestly. But I would still show up if I needed to, you know?
Right.
Like, I would, if there's some catastrophic thing, I would still answer the phone call, you know?
Same. I mean, I have people who I'm not in friendships with. I mean, that's life, I think, right? But they do know if they needed something, they could call me and I would be there. Now, I would not call them.
Exactly.
Right? I have my people to call.
Yeah.
But if someone needed me, nobody's done anything that horrific to me that I wouldn't help them if they needed it. I don't ever want to be that person.
I think it's more about, like, being the person that you want to be and someone that you're proud of too. And I don't even mean this in a way of, like, making it about yourself. I just think in life, like, you have control over the kind of person that you want to be, and you cannot give people that power.
Correct.
You know? So I think it kind of, for me at least, it kind of goes back to that of, like, what are my values or things that I think are important, or, like, what would I appreciate if I was on the other end?
Right.
You know?
And when I was younger, honestly, I haven't always had this mindset. When I was younger, I was pretty hard on my friends and had pretty high expectations for my friends. And again, it was exhausting and it wasn't fair. Because I have high expectations for myself, I held everyone else to those. And that's not fair. Like we said earlier, we have to meet people where they are. And that's sometimes a really good thing because it will help you keep the relationship. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I just think it's really important, and it helps you set a boundary. But I will say, I failed many times. I failed friends. I think I said it in the beginning. I failed family. I failed coworkers. But over time, you just learn from those, and you make amends, and then the relationship can usually be stronger.
Agreed. Okay, last thing.
Okay.
She has to catch a flight. If you could go back in your life and do anything differently, what would it be? Do you have anything that you would change?
I would have moved to New York in my 20s.
Lived a little.
I had a plan. My whole life I had a plan. I knew from a very young age I wanted to work for Dillard department stores. They're a Little Rock. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, and they're a Little Rock based company. And I really wish I would have taken a year off and moved to New York and done a job there first. New York is my favorite city. I love it so much. And I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time there. But, and I mean, I could probably tell you 100 things. I wish I would have gotten married. I wish I would have had children. But you don't get to do over. So I don't really think about them too much. But if someone asks me, then I can think of like a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. It's more so just of like, I always ask people who are even like 2 years older than me, because I'm like, what is something that I could, it's even like with what you know now, like what's something, it's always interesting what people say.
I always thought, well, for the husband and kid, I just thought that would happen. I didn't have a goal. I just thought it would happen. So I just moved through and just thought, well, it's going to happen when you don't expect it. You know what people say? That's not true. If you want a relationship with anybody, you got to work for it. And you got to look for it. And I did not do that. I was so career driven. I loved my work. I loved so I loved my life, I would say. I've always loved my life. But I never focused on it. I still don't focus on it. But New York would be my number one. I wish I would have gone to New York.
Love that. I'm going next week.
Oh, you're so lucky.
So festive. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This was such a good episode. We'll have to have you back.
I hope so.
We're starting a dinner party series.
Oh.
So maybe next time it'll be you, me, and Macy at the dining table.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Wouldn't that be cute?
That would be so cute.
And you can whoop us into shape there, too.
Yes, we didn't really talk about that part, but yes.
Well, I feel like that'll be the next one. We touched on it. Okay, where can everyone find you? Not your address, like online.
I'm like, what? Well, so I have an Instagram, but it's not, is that what you mean? It's small. It's Increased Orbit, which is INCREASEDORBIT. Again, it's all about my world is expanding my world, expanding your world. It's all about how do we increase our orbit.
Love. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.